Speak to Ahmad Shah Mohibi, who's a former US counterterrorism advisor and founder of Rise to Peace, an organisation that focuses on preventing extremism around the world. He joins us via Skype from Washington, D.C. Thanks very much for being with us. So on this latest mosque attack, is it likely to be ISIL in Afghanistan behind it?
Well, ISIS hasn't claimed the responsibility for attack. It wouldn't surprise if they do. But we see in the last, I would say, 10 days since September 18th, ISIS has committed about 25 attacks in Nangarhar province, and 2 in Parwan, and 2 in Kabul. We see the attack at the Abbey Gate in Kabul airport, and then attack earlier. It was a similar attack to the one by the Central Mosque in Afghanistan today that happened. And within hours, there was another explosion in the northern side of Kabul. So these chains of attacks that are connecting the dots that it could be ISIS, but they haven't claimed responsibility. We also look into the resistance force of Afghanistan. They have been all the way in Panjshir in the mountains. So it's really hard to see if they have committed the attacks yet or not. But it's most likely to be ISIS. And
the Taliban's main boast when they came into power was that they were bringing back security. How big a threat to them is a kind of a resurgence of, if it is indeed ISIL in Afghanistan, how important is that as a threat to the Taliban?
It is. Taliban do not want ISIS attacks, the resistance force attacks, any types of attacks, so they could prove to the world that they can maintain Afghanistan. Here is the problem. Taliban took Afghanistan easily, but maintaining power is hard. We're talking about between 14 to 22 terrorist groups operating in Afghanistan, different political leaders, the resistance forces. So it's going to be a challenge. The Taliban wants to secure and bring security, but that is going to be a challenge with the whole economic crisis and this humanitarian crisis happening in Afghanistan. And on top of that, the world unwillingness or silence on Afghanistan to whether recognize the Taliban or not.
Yeah, on the issue of what the international community does about it. I mean, they left, or the Americans pulled out of Afghanistan, saying they'd kind of done what they wanted to do, and it was no longer a threat internationally. If groups like this can start to operate there, could they become a threat beyond Afghanistan?
Yes, they will. We see ISK in Afghanistan, Daesh of Khorasan. The Taliban commitment to cut ties with Al-Qaeda has not been proved yet. General Milley, McKenzie, and Secretary of State Austin, they all called Taliban a terrorist organization. At the same time, they say there is no evidence that the Taliban to cut ties with Al-Qaeda. I think so. We talk about Al-Qaeda, we're talking about ISIS. And at the same time, what the U.S. and the international community has, what for the U.S. is over-the-horizon counterterrorism operation, which they want to track, monitor, and target. So that's going to be hard. If the world recognizes the Taliban, how the U.S. will conduct over-the-horizon counterterrorism missions. So I think it's a serious threat for the world, especially for the United States. Not knowing what's happening in Afghanistan without any intel.
Yeah, on that, I mean, Biden, after the attack on Kabul airport at the time, said, to ISIS-K, as he called them, we're not done with you yet. But the Taliban are already complaining about the Americans continuing to use drones over their territory. How actively can the US pursue ISIL in Afghanistan, or whatever you like to call it, if they haven't got, or if they're not allowed, essentially, to use the drones, which I suppose they can use them anyway, even if they're not allowed to, but... you see what I'm getting at?
Yeah, so, well, the last 3 administrations wanted to build a strong institution in Afghanistan, one that could partner the U.S. in combating terrorism. So right now, there are on the offers on the table for the U.S. government, for the Biden administration, if the Taliban could be a partner in combating terrorism. So if the Taliban respect human rights, if the Taliban cut ties with Al-Qaeda, that's a possibility that work with the United States to combat terrorism, particularly Daesh of Khorasan. But that is the possibility of that is really less, given that the Taliban hatred with the U.S. and their unwillingness or failures to implement the agreement that was signed last year in Doha, Qatar. So it's really hard, but we're looking at the over-horizon counterterrorism. But what needs to be done is for the world, especially for the United States, to work with the actors in the region and making sure to eliminate the cells of terrorism in Afghanistan. We cannot, in the world, cannot afford another 9/11 style attack without intelligence, without any pressure and state-sponsored terrorism.
Ahmad Shah Mohibi, thank you very much indeed for joining us.
Thank you.